right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Miss Sarah J Maas, my queen. I have a tattoo for her and I plan on getting more. Okay. These are all my Magnolia Parks books. She has to go undercover as a spy to this military school, which like is the last place you want to be undercover because it's a military school. Now these are getting put in my coffin. Hello besties and welcome back. I'm so excited for this because we are just basically chatting about all of my favorite books today, which is something I love to do, as you can tell. So without further ado, let's hop into the favorite book section, and then after that I'm gonna do kind of like my favorite books based on like prettiness, not like content. So special editions, covers, all of that jazz. So stick around to the end for that if you're interested in special edition talk and stuff like that. Okay, I think first up I might do fantasy because I feel like fantasy I have a lot of, but I also feel like with fantasy it's harder for me to find series that I absolutely love that become favorites. So I'm pretty picky with the fantasies I absolutely love, but the ones I do love, I love. So first up I want to mention Six of Crows because I just feel like this is such a loved series. Like this is everybody's favorite. I feel like I haven't heard anyone say anything bad about this series and it is so valid. So Six of Crows is about a group of characters and they each have their own traits and they're all each good at something different. So when they work together they just have a bunch of different skills. And basically Kaz, he's kind of like the leader a little bit. He gets offered to go on this heist where they can basically make a ton of money. So he pulls this group of people together and is like, hey, I need y'all to help me. And so they do, and then they go on this very dangerous mission and you just follow them on their mission and you learn so much about the characters. And this is the best found family I've ever read. These characters, they are so good together and it's incredible. This does technically come after the Shadow and Bone series, which you can read if you want to. A lot of people don't recommend it. I enjoyed it, but this is just a lot better, I think. So maybe skip it, maybe don't, I don't know. But there's a Netflix show that combines them both, so maybe read it if you want to watch the show after. And then kind of a more like, I guess not as popular series, we have the Kiss of Deception series, which this technically goes before the Dance of Thieves duology. And I really enjoyed this series and it is one of my favorites because I feel like it was so easy to understand, and this is one of the first like fantasy series I read, so that was really nice when I read it. This also has really great found family and I feel like it's definitely a more character driven story, which I found I love personally because I really enjoyed the characters in this, and since I was able to connect with them I loved the story so much. There isn't as much plot throughout this series, but it is still super good when there is action. But yeah, I love these characters and I loved watching our main girl grow throughout the series, and all of the characters had their quirks and like things about them and I just love them so much. Starts off our main girl Leia, whatever. She's basically set to get married to this prince and she runs away on her wedding day, and then two guys, they are going after her trying to, you know, bring her back, and one of them is the assassin and the other one is the prince. And what I liked about this first book is there's a little bit of mystery going on with the who's who. Like in her perspective you have their names, and then in the guy's perspectives you just have the assassin or the prince, so you don't know like which name correlates to prince or assassin. So I thought that was an interesting touch because it just kept me on my toes, and like one time you'd think it was this guy and then you'd be like, no, it's this one. It was fun to do that. I love this series so much. And then after that is Dance of Thieves. This is set in the same world, so the Kiss of Deception just helps you understand the world better and like the politics that were going on and kind of what led the world to be like this, I guess. This is another great series. I love these characters as well. There is also found family in this, and I feel like there's just very strong side characters and like family members, friends, all of that. So this is kind of like a cat and mouse thing. So our main girl Kazi, she's like a thief, I think. Yeah, she's a legendary thief, and the queen sent her and two of her friends on a mission for her, and then the outlaw leader, I don't remember his name, basically they meet up, and I'm pretty sure it's like cat and mouse type thing. And then the second one is just as good as well, and what I like about this is it's a duology, and if you do read both of these it's only 5 books. so it's not that crazy. So highly recommend. Another book I absolutely love, Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. The romance in this is definitely one of my favorite romances of all time. This book is incredible, and just the vibes of this are so good, and it's just so wholesome and sweet. There's so many good characters in this, like all the characters I love so much. So our main girl's name is Iris and our main guy is Roman, and they work at the same like newspaper company and they're rivals there. So Iris writes letters on her typewriter, which I just love the typewriter vibe. Like, I love the vibe of that. Like, it's... Anyways, she thinks she's sending letters to her brother, but actually they go to Roman. So you get that because she doesn't know that he's the one responding to her, but he knows it's her. So you get that, and then the story does take a turn, which I didn't know going into it, so I'm not gonna spoil. But yeah, I love this book so much, and this is the blueprint of like a romance book. Like, this romance is my favorite ever, like, genuinely. I love these characters so much. The sequel did come out late last year. It's pretty good as well. Not as good as the first one, but still good. So I definitely recommend picking up this series. And then I have An Ember in the Ashes. This is one of my favorite series as well. I first listened to this 2 or 3 winters ago. I listened to the entire series on audiobook, and I did puzzles while doing it, which that was such a vibe. So this series is about our main girl. Why are all these characters' names in fantasy books the same? This is about Leia, and It's a Deception is Leia. They're all so similar. Anyway, her brother is arrested for treason, and so Leia basically makes a deal with this like group of rebels to try and save her brother, and by doing so she has to go undercover as a spy to this military school, which like is the last place you want to be undercover because it's a military school. Yeah, so she's just on a very dangerous mission, but she obviously wants to get her brother back. So you follow her on that mission, and Elias, he is set to be like one of the school's best soldiers, so they cross paths, and you just kind of watch their stories, how they intertwine, and they each have their own kind of mission they're going on. So I love this series so much, and just how the series develops and progresses in the other books is actually crazy. Like, I'm remembering it now and I'm like, I need to reread this. Like, it evolves so much after this book, and I feel like this book was still such a strong start to the series because, you know, the spy mission, the stuff like that. Like, I just love stuff like that in a fantasy book where they're like undercover or like, you know, like in dangerous high stakes situations. So I love this. I love these characters. There's so many good characters in this, and there's so much like deeper stuff going on. You know what I mean? Like, you just learn so much as the story goes on. I love this series. Another book was Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I really loved this book too. It did take me a bit to get into because this is like an adult high fantasy, so it is just more complex. I feel it's kind of confusing, honestly, and I feel like I really remember the ending, but I remember loving it so much because I was more confused at the first part, but I feel like if I reread it, we'd be good. I still have to continue the series though. But so Mia basically is trying to get into this school of famous assassins. It starts off, she goes on this big journey to get to the school, and then when she eventually gets to the school, there's a bunch of just like classes and trials that she has to go through, all while among the most like dangerous assassins in the world. So it's just like a watch your back type situation because there's just so many dangerous people and they beef. So basically her goal is to try and just survive this school, because if she does, she will be, it's called, inducted among the chosen of the Lady of Blessed Murder, and one step closer to the thing she desires, revenge. So she is on another mission other than just getting to the school, and I just remember the ending of this was actually crazy, and there is some twists and turns throughout this book. There's a lot of interesting characters, good characters I like, and just so many aspects of this. And also she has a cat, Shadow Cat, that talks to her. It's kind of hard to explain how it works, but that aspect was so fun because like they kind of banter back and forth, and I loved the aspect of these shadow animals. So that was so fun. This is just a greatly developed story, but it is a little more complex, I will say. But the rest of the other ones I've told you about are all YA, so those ones are easier to understand. All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Miss Sarah J Maas, my queen. I have a tattoo for her and I plan on getting more. She's my queen. So starting off the ACOTAR series, I don't want to get them down from my shelves. This is where I started, and I think it is the perfect starting point because I feel like it's overall the most simple world and character. It starts off that way, I guess. So the first book, ACOTAR, if you have not read or heard about this, just click off this video and go buy it, like genuinely. Maybe leave it running in the background, but like go get the book. Anyway, so it starts off, our main girl, Feyre, she lives in this like little cottage with her 2 sisters and dad. She is the main provider for them, so she goes out and hunts for their food. One day she is out hunting and she shoots what she thinks is a wolf, but actually it's a fae who can shapeshift to a wolf. So she basically gets in trouble with the Fae and then ends up getting taken to one of their court's residents to live because she shot the wolf. That's the deal that had to be done. So you're following her, obviously being a human navigating the Fae world. And what I really like about this is the first book really wasn't that complex. The characters, there wasn't a lot of characters really. I mean, it does get that way more, but it starts off not a lot of characters. The setting's easy to understand, and then she slowly shifts it into more developed. And then eventually Feyre does have to compete in these trials in this Fae world. It's so much more than that though. Like, I'm just trying to giving you like the bare bones. That is the summary of the first ACOTAR book. It just gets so much better. Like, I can just tell you that. And these are the best, some of my favorite characters I have ever read about. Like, I think about them daily, and I read this series 2-3 years ago. So I'm begging you to read ACOTAR, please. And then the next series I read from her is Throne of Glass, and this is personally how I would do it. It just makes the most sense. Also Crescent City, which is her third series, it's set in like not necessarily modern days, but like I guess more recent time because they have phones and email and stuff like that, you know? So it just makes sense like chronologically, if you get what I'm saying. So Throne of Glass is just the massive series. I mean, this is the last book. It's almost 1,000 pages and it is the best thing I've ever read. So personally, I read Assassin's Blade first, and in this, Selena, you are following her past life. Like, you are learning what happened to her, what she's done, where she's been, everything, people she's associated with. You are learning about her past, the prequel, and just how everything came to be. I personally highly recommend reading Assassin's Blade first.
This might be the biggest jump scare ever, but a little sneak peek into the special edition section. On the back of one of my like rare special editions, it shows the Throne of Glass books in order, and Assassin's Blade's first. Anyways, I'm locking back in. Just had to share that.
There's some very strong opinions about this, so do what you want. Maybe listen to a couple videos about it, whatever. But I read Assassin's Blade first, and I'm so glad I did, because the rest of the series, when something was mentioned about her past, I knew what it was right away. And then when you get to Throne of Glass, which is technically the first book, you are following her, and she goes and competes in these trials in order to be the king's personal assassin. Like I said with that, if you read Assassin's Blade first, you will know what has all went down in her life before that. But if you just go into Throne of Glass, you will learn that later on, because then you read Assassin's Blade like 3rd or 4th or something. The series has the best characters ever. There's so much good found family in it, and I feel like this series is definitely for the plot more. Like, there is so much action going on from book 1 to book freaking highly recommend, because it's just actually insane all that goes down in the Throne of Glass world. And then her last series, Crescent City, which, like I said before, it's just set in a more recent time period, so that is why it's recommended to be read third. And also, it's more confusing, honestly. The world has a lot of different types of characters, like fae, angels, like everything, and some of those types of characters you do see in Sarah J Maas's other series, so you learn more about like how she writes them and like what they are in those. And then in Crescent City, they're all combined. Like, there's werewolves, vampires, there's mermen, there's literally everything. So I will say though, Crescent City is probably my least favorite. Like, I just don't think about it that often, but it is still such a good book, and Sarah J Maas just writes the best characters ever. Okay, so basically the book, our main girl's name is Bryce. I love her. She's a great character. Something happens in her life and it kind of sends her, not necessarily on a spiral, but it just changes her approach of life, and she just takes on a new mission because of it. The mission just kind of leads her down a few different rabbit holes where she just has to uncover some things. And what I love about this series is just all the different types of people you learn about, like fantasy people, the mermen, the vampires, the wolves, the fae, the angels, all of them. It is just so entertaining to learn about all of them and how they coexist in the same universe. So that was probably my favorite part of it. I did really enjoy Bryce. She's just such an interesting character. I wouldn't say she's my favorite SJM main girl, but I still love her so much. Crescent City is really hard to explain. It's just such an interesting series, but I highly recommend. But it is definitely more confusing than her other series. That's why I think read the other two first to get a feel for her writing, her worlds, the characters, all that. Last fantasy book, and then we'll kind of switch it up. We have Fourth Wing. I feel like honestly this book, it isn't really that talked about anymore, but it is still one of my favorites. This book to me was just so action-packed and fast-paced and addicting. Like, I remember not being able to put it down. Like, like at all. Like I was reading in the car, and I don't read in the car. This book follows our main girl Violet. She is set to be a scribe, a scholar, stuff like that, you know, like books, learning, knowledge, that type of vibe. Her mom is the general of this like war school. She basically forces Violet into be a dragon rider. So she has to go on all these different trials and just things like that to try and become a dragon rider when she was not prepared for that at all in her life. It's definitely very dangerous and not her vibe. So I really enjoyed this because the trials were so interesting to me, and just their lives at school were so interesting. Like their classes, what they did, their friends, all of that were so interesting to me. And this book was just so good from start to the end. There's romance in it, there's good friendships. If you haven't read this, please read it. I just love like the war college school setting to me, and then when there's trials, it's everything. And then the next book I want to talk about, it's kind of like the bridge between genres I'm going to talk about. It's like fantasy but like still fiction-y. So this is Lovely War by Julie Berry. So the story is kind of told in two different ways. The narrators are Aphrodite and some other gods and goddesses that are on Mount Olympus, and Aphrodite has to tell this story to other gods and goddesses. And she's telling the story of Hazel and James and their love story. James does have to go fight in the war, so you're following him and Hazel. They meet like right before he has to go off, so you're following them trying to navigate their relationship because they just met, but they do have very deep feelings. So you follow them during this wartime, which is obviously, it's crazy. And then there is also another romance you get, which I don't really want to talk much about that one because I didn't even know it was really in this book. It takes a bit for it to get started, so it's like not on the back of the book necessarily, but I love this story so much, and I thought it was so unique how the goddesses and gods were telling the story. And then you got some scenes like of them on Mount Olympus just being gods and goddesses, but you also got this like such deep and soulmate connection of these two characters, and it was just so entertaining reading about the world set in the wartime and just how they fight to be together. And it was so wholesome, and I feel like this romance is definitely a top tier one. Like it is so good and deep. This book is so fast paced too. Like even though it's a big one, there's just so much going on and you love the characters so much. And if you liked that one, or vice versa, The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, this is kind of a similar vibe, both set in wartime. That's really why. So this follows two sisters and their lives during World War II. I don't want to say like anything at all about this one because it's just such a, you just have to go in blind. Like this is just such an emotional book. I felt literally every emotion possible and then some. These sisters just have such a powerful story, and the book is just so powerful. I feel it was so entertaining from the beginning to the end. Like I was completely hooked, and again, it's like a thick book. You just become to be so invested in the characters. You may not agree with them 100% of the time, or things they did or said or whatever, but you just like care about them so much no matter what. And even the side characters, you're just rooting for them. You're just so invested in their lives, and this is the easiest 5-star I think I've ever given. This book is incredible. There is so much going on in this. I feel like you learn so much too about the world and what was going on at that time. I just can't even put it into words. Sorry, my camera died. But okay, next I want to talk about some romance books. So okay, first up I wanted to talk about The Love of My Afterlife. I read this a couple months ago and fell in love with the story. This follows our main girl Delphi, and basically she dies. And she is in this like afterlife kind of waiting room, I guess, and a guy pops in, and they kind of have like a meet cute, I guess. Like they just click. So the person working the death waiting room, like it's hard to put into words, it's like, I'll give you 10 days back. If you can find this guy, kiss him, then you can stay alive and not be dead, because the way she dies is like literally choking on a hamburger. She gets sent back down to Earth and has to try and find this guy in 10 days. And she just goes on this like mission to try and find him, and on her way to find him, a lot of things change in her life and things happen for the better. Self changes too. She learns a lot about herself, and when you get to the end of this book, she just feels like a completely different person with everything that happens. So you're following behind her as she tries and makes these 10 days worth it and tries to find this sky, and you know, so she can literally stay alive. And it was just so entertaining to read because it was magical, but it felt so real, and the author did such a good job at developing all of the characters, from like side characters to Delphi, and I just loved following her journey to find him in the 10 days that she had left. It was such a good story, and it was such a short read but still had so much depth, and the romance in this is incredible. It's so sweet and so wholesome too, and it's just such a powerful book because it's so high stakes, kind of, because obviously she has 10 days left. It's just such a good story, and I highly recommend. And then the next romance I want to talk about is Lovelight Farms by V.K. Borson. So this follows our main girl Stella, and she has this Christmas tree farm, and she enters this social media contest to win a big chunk of money so she can save her farm because it is kind of struggling. And she lies on her application and says that she has a boyfriend, but she doesn't. So she asks her best friend to fake date her while this social media influencer is at the farm trying to see if she deserves some money. So I really liked that because it's friends to lovers, and friends to lovers is one of my favorites, I guess. So I loved that. And their romance again is just so wholesome, and they just have such a good dynamic together. And I love the Christmas tree setting. This is the perfect like Christmas book without being like overly Christmassy where everything's about Christmas. I loved it. It's set in a small town too, so you get the small town people, the little shops, everything like that, and everyone in the town is kind of like rooting for her farm and everything. So it's so cute seeing all the side characters come together too. I love the Christmas tree farm vibe. Like, it's so wholesome. Definitely pick up this one. This is the perfect time. Okay, these are now some of my favorite romances ever. So first up, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I loved this book more than anything. Abby Jimenez's writing is just incredible, and I feel like she's a little more like a literary fiction plus romance. Like, there's not some just like fake dating for a wedding type thing. I mean, she definitely throws like silly things in like that, but her books are just so deep and emotional because she always manages to make the characters have something deeper going on in their lives that they have to work through. That is one of my favorite things in books, when the characters have a lot going on and yet they still are there for each other. So this starts off with Emma and Justin. They each kind of believe that they're cursed because basically everyone they date and then break up with, or the breakup happens, they move on, and then the next person they date is their like soulmate and they get married, whatever. So they think they're cursed because they're always kind of that stepping stone to someone finding their true love. Basically, Justin posted about that on Reddit, and Emma is like, that's literally me. Like, that's me. So they kind of connect through Reddit. Again, that's like such a, like a quirky way to connect, whatever. So Emma is a traveling nurse, and she ends up being in the same area as Justin. So they do decide to meet up one day, but both of them kind of have just like massive big family stuff going on. So they are trying to work through that while, you know, starting to learn more about each other and date. They just have a lot going on, but they still manage to, you know, push through and be there for each other, and it's so good. The setting of it's super cool and unique too, I will say, and there's just so many silly aspects of this. There's just so much going on in this book. You have Emma's life, her family issues, her friend Justin's life, his family issues, his job, Emma's job. Like, it's just crazy. There's so much going on, and that is what I like about romance books, is when there's like a ton going on in their lives too, where the romance isn't just like the main thing, where you get like their job, their friends, their family stuff, all of that in one. So that is why I really loved this book, and it is one of my favorites of all time now. The next book is Unwanted by Mia Sheridan. This I really liked for the same reason, being it's not just 100% about the romance. There is mystery stuff going on too, which I really love. This is about Harper, who in her small town there is 2 murders that just happened. So she has to kind of help figure out what happened, and the main suspect is a man, Lucas, and he has lived in the woods alone for basically his entire life. So you are learning about his past, what he's all been through, and also you are trying to uncover what happened in this town that the murders happen in, when it's like a small town and stuff like this doesn't happen. That is why I love this book so much, because it is not just the romance at all. There's so much other stuff going on, and well, again, there's literally a murder investigation going on. There is still romance, and they still manage to find each other and be there for each other and fall in love. I love this book so much. The mystery aspect of this is incredible. Like, take out the romance, just make the mystery, still 5 stars. I can't say though just the romance would be a 5 5-star for me. The romance wasn't my favorite. Like, it wasn't, you know, Divine Rivals Lover or Justin and Emma level, but it was still good and a good touch to the story. But I will say I was mainly in it for the mystery, and it's so delivered though. But the combination of both, obsessed. Please go read this. Another one of my favorites, we have Beach Read by Emily Henry. If you know I love a book, I will have reread it, and I've reread this book, so that is just how you know, because I don't reread books often. But this one is so good. Again, I'm gonna keep saying it, this is not just a romance, this is more literary fiction x romance. So that is why I loved it, because it's not just simply a romance book, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot going on, which I still love a romance book, but like these are on another level. So this one, you're following January and Gus, and they are both authors, and they're both kind of like stuck with what they're writing. So they're both in this town, and they happen to be neighbors. They kind of strike up a deal like, hey, I'll write your genre if you write mine. So they go on these little adventures with each other to learn more about the other's genre, and those are just so sweet because just the way they connect is so wholesome, and their romance is incredible. And this town they're in has so many like quirks. There's so many good people in this town, and there's just so much going on in this story that's not just like them dating or whatever. Each of the characters has been through some stuff. They have to figure that out. Emily Henry's writing is just like actually top tier. She just knows exactly how to write a romance fiction book. Like, she kills it. There's so many good quotes in here. I mean, like hello. You know it's good when they literally put it on a special edition. Like, there's just so many good moments in here, and the characters just grow so much. I love that in a story when there's some good character development, and this delivers with that. And Emily Henry's writing, again, like, she is just one of the best authors I've ever read from. Okay, this last series is not gonna be for everyone. Magnolia Parks. This is about a group of characters set in high society London. Like, Bessie literally goes shopping at like Gucci and some other high-end stores I haven't even heard of like once a week, and just buys everything. Very unrealistic for a lot of us, and just the way they act is very also unrealistic for most of us, but that makes it so fun to watch. Like, it's like reality TV. You're like, wow, I'd never be on this dating show or like whatever. But that is why it was so entertaining to me, because it's so unattainable for me, like, to be that rich, tolerating with the way I was treated like that, you know what I mean? So this is a toxic relationship book. The romance in this, there's flaws. I was able to see past that and enjoy the book, but I can definitely see if that gets to you. Just go into it with the mindset of that is what it's gonna be, and not like, oh my gosh, I wish I had that, you know what I mean? So yeah, knowing that, I was able to go into it with kind of no expectations, and it definitely exceeded my expectations because it is so entertaining to me. And the thing with it is there's like no plot. Like, it's just them existing in London basically, but their friend group just has so much drama that it's like, pass me the popcorn. It's so entertaining. So yeah, you're just following BJ and Magnolia. Those are the main couple, and then their friends navigating life, pretty much doing what they do and just spending money. This series also includes the Daisy Hates books, which follow another set of characters which they cross over in all of the books, but they just have kind of a different lifestyle and aren't necessarily in the main friend group in these, but they still like associate with each other. I do love the Daisy Hates world a lot, but I also love this book because even though I don't agree with the things they do, say, or act on, whatever, I still care about them. I want them to be happy, but I can definitely see that they have done some messed up things, but I still want the best for them, and like, I love them. So that is Magnolia Parks. It's kind of hard to explain because it's not for everybody. So I want to be transparent with what it's about, because I don't want you to spend your money on the book and then hate it, you know? But if you do love it, you will love it and think it's like just so entertaining, like me. So yeah. Alright guys, I think that is most of my favorite books, but these are like the top. I'm definitely probably forgetting some. I would absolutely love if you could let me know down below your favorite books. Like, give me a list. Give me like 5 minimum. Favorite out of genres, whatever you want to do, because I feel like a lot of these aren't necessarily from 2024, so I would love to end the year with a new favorite. So let me know down below, and now let's go on to the special editions. Okay friends, for the next kind of part of this, I thought it would be fun to run through all of my special editions and just keep the book talk going. So most of these aren't super crazy, I feel, but I just kind of wanted to show them off because they're my children and I love them. Starting with probably the most like anticlimactic one, we have Anna and the French Kiss, which if you just saw, I just read this in one of my last videos. This I got from Barnes a couple years ago. It says cover design 2020. I don't know if this is still out there, but yeah, that's the front of it, that's the back, and it's just a really high quality like hardcover, and the pages are like almost like glossy and smooth, and there's just a map in this, and I just love the look of this book a lot more than the original cover, and to me it was worth it to pay the extra money for this edition. And then next, I'm just gonna try to show, because I have some series group ones, but I'll just show like the individual ones I have now. Okay, so these two I both got really recently, and they are two of my new favorite things I own. So the first is the Beach Read one. This one I ordered from Target. I've seen it at Barnes and basically anywhere else that has books. So it's kind of like a more golden cover than the original one, which is yellow. There is a quote on the back, and then on the inside we have this stunning sunset, and then another quote, which if you know, you know for this one. I just love this edition so much because I feel like it just really captures the vibe of the book, and I love this book so much, so of course I had to get this. Like, I ordered this months in advance, and I'm so glad I did, because when it got here it was so much better than expected. And then this one I ordered also months ago. This is the Magnolia Parks like UK special edition. So I ordered this from, I'll put the site name here, I think you can still get them. So this is just the first book. Honestly, they were a little more pricey because also I did obviously have to ship it from the UK to here. It was just more expensive, so I didn't feel like it was really worth it for me to get the full series, even though I wanted to, especially after seeing them. It's like kind of like feels like clothy, and then it has the gold detailing. It has this quote on the back, and then on the, I opened this up and I literally gasped. Like, that's stunning. The back also has that. Like, this is just such a gorgeous edition, and this series is the one I have the most editions of. So I guess I can show you the rest of my Magnolia editions now. Let me go get them down. Okay. These are all my Magnolia Parks books. So the first one I ever got was this edition. When it was being traditionally published, I'm not sure about the correct verbiage, but I got this from eBay actually, but the other ones of this I got from Amazon. But they stopped doing these in the US now, so now you have to get them from a UK site or Amazon UK. I did get one from there. So this is probably one of my favorite covers of all time. This book is just stunning, and I love these covers so much because like all the little like icons on here mean something. That was just really special, being able to look at the cover after reading it and know like what each one signifies. And then this is the first book in the series, so this is the new cover that they came out with. So this is, if you go into a Barnes & Noble now, this is the cover you will find. I like this one personally, but I do like the original ones better. But when I go to reread the series, I will be rereading this one now since it's more common, you know. The back of this is stunning. I love the back of this. It just looks so classy, I feel. Yeah, that's really it. The books like they're just different sizes too. Like this one's a lot lighter, and yeah, they're a little bit different size. And then the second book in the series is Daisy Hates, which is like connected, just follows different characters. So this is the original cover for that. Again, I got this off Amazon back when Amazon US sold it. This is the back. Again, this one is probably my least favorite out of the series, but I still love it so much. And then this is the current cover that they have. And this cover is probably my favorite cover of all time. The Long Way Home. This book is like everything to me. I love this cover so much and everything. Again, this one is from Amazon, but they no longer have it. Then this is the new version of that. I just feel like the backs of these, like she snapped. Like they look so good. I love it. And then Daisy Hates the Great Undoing, my favorite book of the series. This is the original cover for that. Not my favorite, but like if you know, you know, and I do love the like lily pad background. This is the back of it. And then this is the new one for it. These aren't necessarily special editions, but I'm just kind of showing to compare the differences, because if you do want to spend a little more to get the original ones versus this. And then Into the Dark, this is the normal one you can get anywhere now, but this one, they stopped doing the original covers before this one came out, so this is from Amazon UK, and as you can tell, it is a very different size. A little annoying, but it's not that deep, I guess. This book just makes it look massive. Here's the comparison for these. So this is the size that if you ordered these covers from Amazon UK, I think they would come in the bigger size now. Just putting that out there because I know some people, the sizes being different annoys them. Okay, I don't feel like completely showing these, so I feel like it's not like super like special. But I do have the original sprayed edge of Fourth Wing. I just got on the bandwagon early, so I just pre-ordered it before it even came out, and it had these sprayed edges. That's how I got it. I think now you just have to buy it secondhand, or the new paperback I think has them. But yeah, I love this book. The sprayed edges are adorable. That's really all I gotta say about it. I also have the original Throne of Glass covers. I don't have the new ones. I ordered it off Poshmark secondhand probably like 3 years ago, so I had them. I was reading it at the time where the new covers weren't all the way out yet. So yeah, I do love the old covers for Throne of Glass, and I'm so grateful to have them because I really got a steal on it too. But I think I bought it back when the new covers weren't even a thought, so I'm so glad that now I have something like that. Yeah, I just love those covers so much. So now these are getting put in my coffin. I also have the ACOTAR original covers. These I got off of Mercari. I bought them resale, whatever. It was expensive, I'm not gonna lie, but to me, I love them so much, and I got them for what I feel is a cheaper price than what I've seen before, and the seller was super sweet, and yeah. So glad I have them, and they're very special to me because this series kind of just inspired everything I do and love, so I'm so grateful to have these. This is the first book, A Court of Thorns and Roses. These aren't like special editions, these are just the covers that it was originally published with. I don't think this is a first edition, but it is obviously an earlier copy. So this is the cover. Personally, I like them both. I love the colorful colors. I love the colorful covers as well, but I feel like these just capture the vibe of the series. Not necessarily more, but they just do a good job in capturing the vibe and kind of detailing like each book a little bit. So this is the first one. This is the back side, and it does like list out the Throne of Glass books, which I loved seeing that. This is the second one, A Court of Mist and Fury. This one is my favorite book out of the series, and this cover is adorable, and I feel like again it just does a good job in capturing the vibe of the book and kind of like some sneak peeks, I guess, or like if you know stuff. And then A Court of Wings and Ruin. This one I absolutely love too. And then honestly, this cover might be my favorite, but it is my least favorite book because it is like a novella. This one is stunning. I just love like the white detailing, and on the pages it has some marks like that. And also in ACOTAR it also has the thorn detailings on the page, which I just love when books do that. I don't know, it just adds so much, I feel, and it just makes it so much interesting, and I like being able to see like when the black line's coming up, because then that means you're almost to the end of the chapter, and it's just cool. But that did remind me of some more special editions I have. Okay, so the next I have the Chestnut Springs mirror cover series. So the thing with this one is I kind of bought the whole series before I finished the first book, or maybe it's after, I don't remember. And then I also at that time heard that they were going to stop doing the mirror covers, so I made sure to snag them while I could to have the completed set. But unfortunately this isn't one of my favorite series. I've finished the first 2 books and I'm just trying to continue it, but it's just not like a favorite for me. So yeah, but this is the first book, Flawless. Again, these do have new covers now, but I think maybe you can still get these like secondhand. Honestly, I don't completely know the order of this series, so I'm sorry. Now this is the second one, Heartless, and then I think it's Powerless. This is the one I need to read next, and I'm honestly feeling like it's going to be one of my favorites out of the series, so I'm excited to read this. But these are called the mirror covers if you want to look them up. I think this is the, I don't remember which one goes next, but then we have these two. So yeah, I think that is all of my most favorite special editions, I bet. Like I have some like Barnes edition books, but like those aren't super crazy. I hope you guys enjoyed this little special edition section, and if you have any questions, please let me know down below. And let me know what your favorite book you own is, like cover wise, just like love of the story wise. Let me know, because I feel like just collecting books is just such a fun thing to do and show off. So I love my collection, and I would love to hear about yours, so let me know down below, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.